Welcome to the Engage Jeffco Podcast, where we explore the people, priorities, and stories shaping life here in Jefferson County. I'm Amber.
And I'm Johnny. Every episode, we bring you conversations that help make sense of what's happening locally and why it matters to you.
Today, we're digging into an issue affecting thousands of families in our community, childcare. Whether you're trying to find it, afford it, or just make it through the work week with some peace of mind, it's not easy out there.
In this episode, we talk with 3 local leaders working on the front lines of this challenge. Rachel Meixner from Jefferson County Head Start, Jess Fuller with the Greater Arvada Chamber of Commerce, and Jennifer Anton from Triad Bright Futures.
They walk us through what families are up against and also share what's being done locally to build a better childcare system, from economic initiatives to collaborative county-wide programs.
Whether you're a parent, a caregiver, an employer, or just someone who cares about the strength of our community, this conversation is a powerful look at why childcare matters and what's at stake.
Let's jump in. Today, we're sitting down with Rachel Meixner, Jess Fuller, and Jennifer Anton. We're going to be talking about the state of childcare and early childhood education throughout Jefferson County and also throughout the state as a whole. Thank you all for sitting down with me. And let's just do a quick roundtable, just telling us a little bit about yourselves.
Hi, I'm Rachel Meixner. I'm the director of the Head Start program in Jefferson County. I've been with Head Start for about 10 years.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jess Fuller. I'm the Senior Director of Economic Impact at the Greater Arvada Chamber of Commerce, and so happy to be here with y'all today.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Anton. I'm the Executive Director of Triad Bright Futures, and we serve as the Early Childhood Local Coordinating Organization for Jefferson, Gilpin, and Clear Creek counties.
Jennifer, can you give us a snapshot of childcare in Colorado at this moment?
So the childcare situation in Colorado is challenging, no doubt. More than half of Coloradans live in an area where there's a significant lack of childcare options for families with young children. And what that means is in our state, there are only 2 slots available for every 3 that are needed. Or put in another way, Colorado is short of nearly 200,000 childcare spots. If you're wondering how many young children are in our state, we have about 384,000 children under the age of 5, and 64% of those have all available parents in the workforce. Now, an interesting fact your listeners may not be aware of is that more than half of Colorado children under the age of 5 are cared for by a family member, a friend, or a neighbor. And we call that FFN, or Family, Friend, and Neighbor Care, or License Exempt Care. So the remaining children are in licensed childcare programs, either in a center, a licensed in-home provider, or a school setting. But, sometimes FFN care is preferred by a family as they may choose that, or other times it's blended with other types of care through a program. So I think it's really important to acknowledge the role that our informal care providers have in this whole landscape of childcare.
And what are some of the hurdles that families with young children face when they're trying to access and afford safe, quality childcare?
Well, there are a number of hurdles for sure for families that have children under the age of 5. I'll just mention a few. First off, there is a significant shortage of affordable licensed childcare spots, especially for infants and toddlers. And secondly, there are high and often unaffordable out-of-pocket costs for families, while at the same time, there are very low margins for childcare programs, along with very low pay for early childhood educators. And finally, there are shortfalls in public funding and challenges with policies at the federal and state and local levels. And that makes it very difficult for parents to return to work or to pursue education following the birth of a child. And that has real economic impacts on families, employers, and entire communities.
You mentioned the significant shortage of licensed childcare spots, especially when it comes to infants and toddlers. Can you speak more to that?
In Colorado, over 7,000 licensed infant childcare slots have been lost since 2011. That's nearly 30% of the supply. And one of the reasons for the shortage is that providing care for infants and toddlers requires a low teacher-to-child ratios. Of course, there's more intensive hands-on care for younger children to ensure safety and quality. And that increases the cost for providers and makes it hard to offer affordable slots. Despite the high cost of providing care, early childhood educators are often paid very low wages, and that leads to high turnover and challenges in attracting and retaining qualified staff. And another important point is that federal and state funding for childcare is limited and often doesn't cover the true cost of care for infants and toddlers. Only a small percentage of these funds are allocated to children under 3, despite the high needs. So, for example, we oversee and work with the Universal Preschool Program, but that only serves children in the year before kindergarten.
You talk about out-of-pocket costs. Jess, what are those costs looking like for families?
It's expensive. Colorado has the 8th highest cost of childcare in the country. The average cost for center-based infant care is nearly $20,000 annually, which breaks down into about $1,600 a month. And the average cost of home-based infant care is around $12,700 annually, which is over $1,000 a month. And that's just for one child. The average percent of income spent on infant care for families in Colorado is around 14.5%. Local data collected by Healthier Colorado in 2024 indicated that 20% of families are actually spending as much as 25 to 50% of their monthly household income on childcare. And just for reference, the Department of Health and Human Services recommends families don't spend more than 7% of their household income on childcare.
Rachel, how are those low margins for childcare programs and, like you said, low pay for educators another barrier for quality childcare?
I think quality childcare and early learning programs really rely on a strong, skilled workforce. But when you don't pay enough, it makes it difficult to recruit and retain early childhood educators. In Colorado, childcare workers earn roughly $18 an hour, around $37,690 annually, which, if you live in Jefferson County, is not enough to get by. And so when you're thinking specifically about Jefferson County, you're paying less than people need to pay their own bills. That's not a lot of incentive to go into that career. So because of that, we've got high levels of staff turnover, difficulty recruiting and retaining staff, which then leads to disruption in the continuity of care for children, high teacher burnout, and then we can't invest in ongoing training and professional development for staff.
Colorado lawmakers avoided cutting early intervention Colorado dollars in 2025, but can you forecast the effects of the rising caseloads, funding shortfalls, and losing federal money and how that could have an impact in the coming years?
Fewer families would be able to access those services. There's an increasing number of children that have developmental delays and disabilities, and if there's less funding to support those services, that means those children aren't going to receive them, or they're not going to receive the level of services that's needed. So since the pandemic, there's been an increasing demand for things like speech therapy, physical therapy, behavioral therapy, and that just means higher caseloads for the providers, longer wait times, staff are stretched really thin, longer wait times for services, less individualized care. So it has a wide range of impacts on children and families.
Jess, can you speak to what the effect of the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program freeze in Jefferson County is having on the county?
So the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program, or CCAP, which provides subsidies to low-income families, is operating on waitlists and freezes in every major Colorado county, including Jefferson County, which means that many low-income families who are eligible for CCAP but not yet enrolled will not be able to access affordable childcare through the program and will have to make other arrangements for their childcare. Because we're operating with less slots than we need for kids already, as Jennifer pointed out, it is not an easy task for families to find an alternative affordable option, which could impact their ability to work and secure a safe option for their kids. That'll then have rippling effects on our businesses and our local economy. Now, that said, I do want to say that families who are currently enrolled in CCAP will not lose their child's spot as long as they remain eligible and meet annual deadlines.
Rachel, can you talk about how important it is to maintain funding levels for Head Start?
For those who aren't familiar, Head Start is so much more than just a child care program. At its core, it's a poverty disrupting program. And so any reduction in services means a reduction in Head Start's ability to help families break that cycle of poverty. In Colorado, more than 11,000 children would lose access to Head Start and early Head Start programs and their families. And that's vital early education and family support services to low-income families. And so you cut funding for those programs, you're cutting childcare access, you're cutting the wraparound services that Head Start provides, meals that those children are receiving. And almost all the children that Head Start serves are low-income, homeless, experiencing foster care. And so then you're taking away vital services to those who need it the most.
And like you mentioned, some people may not know everything that Head Start offers. Can you talk about how Head Start is different than your typical childcare center?
In addition to providing early care and education services, Head Start also provides wraparound services for the whole family. It's a multi-generational program that supports families in anything that they need to be successful in life. So it's really individualized for the family. So we have a family support team that helps with paying off debt or education or getting a job, those kinds of things, accessing health and mental health services, ensuring that children are up to date on all their health services, nutrition services. So really looking at the whole child, the whole family, and what do they need to be successful and get out of poverty. And that's what Head Start is for.
I know when we talked before that you guys referenced it as the workforce behind the workforce. Jess, can you talk about how these negative effects in the current childhood care crisis has beyond just children and families?
76% of businesses report losing employees due to childcare issues. That number is insane. Jeffco alone is experiencing an annual economic cost of nearly $200 million due to lack of sufficient childcare for the workforce, which shows up in lost earnings, productivity, and tax revenue. In recent surveys, 1 in 3 businesses felt that childcare issues factored a great deal into loss of productivity for employees.
We talked about the hurdles, but there are some innovative solutions surfacing in Jefferson County. Can you give us an overview of the Greater Arvada Chamber's BOLD initiative?
Yeah, happy to. So the BOLD initiative, which stands for Big Opportunities for Leaders to Deliver, is a 5-year strategy to directly impact economic opportunity across Jefferson and Adams counties with mutually supporting goals that tackle challenges that businesses and employees are facing. Those areas are childcare, and it's clear by now in this conversation why. We need affordable, accessible childcare so people can stay in, join, and rejoin the workforce. With 355,000 job openings expected per year through 2031 in Colorado, largely due to job creation and retirees, it's important that people who want to work but are currently not because of childcare have an opportunity to. Another strand under BOLD is income-aligned housing. So Jeffco is an expensive place to live, with the median home price being over $630,000. Those kinds of prices are unaffordable for middle-income earners who are working critical jobs in our community. And that often means the people who work in those critical jobs in Jeffco can't afford to live near work, which becomes a hiring and retention issue for businesses when people opt for jobs that are closer to home. Add childcare costs on top of that, and you can see why we need to tackle these issues together. Talent is another strand. It focuses on growing our talent to meet the needs of businesses and job seekers. That involves solving industry-wide problems and working closely across business, education, and training providers. And then our business engagement strand, which includes our advocacy work for business-friendly policies.
And what are some of the goals for childcare under the BOLD initiative that you all have in the coming year?
So generally, I want to say there's incredible work going on across the county to address this issue. And we want to make sure at the chamber that we're working collaboratively with folks to solve it. We have a goal to strategically partner with the regional efforts to address childcare needs in our county. We're currently working with executives partnering to invest in children, or EPIC, Triad Bright Futures, here with Jennifer, Triad Early Childhood Council, and the Early Childhood Partnership of Adams County to drive regional solutions and sustainable investments in childcare together by gathering key city, county, business, early childhood, and education leaders. So that's one thing that's going on. We also want to support the businesses in our community who want to pursue childcare solutions that benefit their employees. So think a childcare savings account match program, for example. We have a goal to add businesses to our family-friendly workplace program. This is a fun one. Businesses that are in this program have the opportunity to take an assessment to evaluate their family-friendly workplace practices and policies. They receive a consultation, then have the option to join a cohort of peers and receive a digital badge that they can use to promote their business as a family-friendly workplace. In some positions, things like offering flexible schedules and remote work can lessen the need for childcare that families have. And so I think that is kind of a unique program that can support this issue. And then finally, we want to support efforts to ensure that childcare as an industry is thriving and we have enough childcare professionals to meet the needs of our workforce. With the support of Triad Bright Futures, the Chamber is using an approach called Talent Pipeline Management, or TPM, right now to identify the root causes for the workforce shortage that we have in the childcare industry, quantify that need, and then identify employer-led solutions to address the issue.
Jennifer, what are some of the other programs or operations that are offering solutions to this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, one of the many exciting things about Jefferson County is that there's a whole network of childcare leaders offering solutions, local solutions to the challenges within the industry. And as Jess mentioned earlier, and I'll just highlight a few more. So the Jefferson County Childcare Association connects families with licensed home-based childcare and preschool providers at no charge. And JCCCA, which is their acronym, offers a map to view nearby in-home providers. So that is a great resource for families that might be interested in licensed in-home care. And then, of course, the Colorado Universal Preschool Program offers up to 15 hours per week of state funding for preschool for all children in the year before kindergarten. And in Jefferson County last year, families who participated in the program saved as much as $6,000 a year, and some even more if they were eligible for additional hours. So that is a huge savings for a family that has a preschooler. And then our organization, Triad Bright Futures, also works hard to provide high-quality information and resources on our website about licensed childcare, as well as tools for families that choose care from a license-exempt provider. We work closely with the Colorado Department of Early Childhood and Triad Early Childhood Council to amplify state safety and quality initiatives in Jefferson County, and so families know what to look for when they are evaluating different forms of care. We've also partnered with 211 Colorado to highlight local Jeffco resources that support families with young children through customized resource lists and expand awareness and access to our community's high-quality family support resources. And of course, Jess mentioned the Talent Pipeline Management program that we're currently doing, we're working on right now. And then finally, very important to mention that Triad Early Childhood Council supports licensed providers in Jefferson County with training and program quality initiatives and coaching and information about funding opportunities.
And if listeners want to get involved in advocating for better childcare, Rachel, what are some of the avenues they might be able to take?
I think one of the easiest things people can do is to reach out to their elected officials and let them know how important it is for us to improve our childcare system. There's work to be done at all levels, from the federal government all the way down to local municipalities. So people can call and write their members of Congress, their state representatives. They can show up at city council meetings. Businesses can get involved in the work being done under the BOLD initiative. I think just generally there's a lot of power in our collective voice, and we need to be loud and unwavering in our advocacy efforts.
Jennifer, what would you tell people who may feel dejected by this current childcare crisis?
Well, if you're feeling frustrated or discouraged by the current state of childcare, you are certainly not alone, but we are also not powerless. So whether you're a parent, a provider, a grandparent, or a community member, we can all play a role in advocating for children and a strong early childhood system to support families. So in addition to what Rachel mentioned, here are some other ideas for ways that you can get involved. Connect with local groups that are working to improve childcare in Jefferson County. As Rachel said, speak up, share your personal childcare story with local leaders and school boards, county officials. Sign up for updates from Triad Bright Futures and the Greater Arvada Chamber of Commerce. Attend community meetings and follow policy discussions that impact childcare and early learning. And most importantly, support providers. Thank the caregivers in your life, whether they are a family member or a teacher. Let them know how much you appreciate them. It's a frustrating reality, but we have to start where we are and use the tools that we have, knowing that even small actions can lead to big change.
Jennifer, I love that you say small actions lead to big change, because I think that a lot of times when you're dealing with some of these big issues, right, it can feel a little bit paralyzing. And it is true that small steps and pilots and actions are going to lead to systemic change. I really believe that. There are people in leadership roles and decision-making roles right now across business, city, county, early childhood, our school district, that are poised and ready to act, that are listening to your stories, and they are reflecting on where from their position they can move on this issue. So absolutely, to what Jennifer said, stay active, let them know, because really, I believe Jefferson County is so well positioned to close the gaps here, and just really proud of that. The other thing I'll say is that at least from my experience, I think so many people that are in those leadership positions share a lot of your experiences and have the same experiences that you're having with trying to find childcare for your kids so that you can work. So there's a lot of connection to be made there.
There are so many impacts that children and families in our community as a whole are facing from the current childcare crisis. But it's amazing and encouraging to hear that there's so much collaborative effort in Jeffco to find solutions. So thank you, Jennifer, Jess, and Rachel, for sitting down with us and sharing your insight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for bringing this important issue to your listeners. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
A big thank you to Rachel, Jess, and Jennifer for sharing their time and expertise and for the important work they're doing to support families across Jefferson County.
One thing that really stood out in this conversation is how childcare touches every part of a community, the economy, the workforce, and especially the future well-being of kids and families.
If you want to learn more about the programs we discussed, like Triad Bright Futures, the Bold Initiative, or Head Start, we've included links in the show notes. Take a look when you've got a minute.
We also want to hear from you. What topics do you want us to cover? Who should we talk to next? You can reach us through our website, www.jeffco.us, or on social.
Don't forget, Engage Jeffco is a monthly newsletter. You can subscribe using the link in our show notes and follow us on social media to stay in the loop.
If this episode meant something to you, share it with someone, a neighbor, a coworker, a friend. These are how these conversations keep going. And we'd love if you gave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts.
Thanks again for listening.
Until next time, take care and keep looking out for one another, Jeffco.